All righty, good morning. And welcome to our Queensborough President Land Use Public Hearing. This hearing is taking place both in person in the Helen Marshall Cultural Center and on our YouTube channel at queensbp.org. .com.
It's Queensbp.
Oh, UT.
NYC.gov.
.gov, exactly. I'm Queensborough President Donovan Richards. I will be chairing this hearing on For those who wish to testify virtually and haven't already pre-registered to do so, please visit our website at queensbp.nyc.gov. If you're attending our public hearing in person, please see our staff to sign up for public speaking time if you have not already done so. Please note your opportunity to speak will follow those who are pre-registered. Written testimony is welcome from those who are unable to testify. All written testimony must be received by 5 p.m. today and may be submitted by email to planning2, the number 2, at queensbp.nyc.gov. Planning2 at queensbp.nyc.gov, or by conventional mail sent to the office of the Queensborough President at 120-55 Queens Boulevard, room 226, Kew Gardens, New York, 11424. Let me, before I turn it over to Vicky to read instructions, this is a long time coming. Very proud of the work we've started, and Jamaica has so much potential. This is very personal to me, knowing that the potential of Southeast Queens and Jamaica has never been reached. We haven't seen those investments that we've deserved over 50 years. And today we move our community into the future. And I won't be shy in calling the mayor and city planning to make sure that we're just not doing housing, that we're really doing some smart, holistic development and planning to make sure that we move Southeast Queens into the future. So with that being said, today is the beginning of a new dawn and a new day for Jamaica Queens. Couldn't be prouder. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over for Vicky to please call the first calendar item.
First, I'm just going to do some quick instructions. The public hearing shall be conducted in the following manner. The applicant will give a description of the requested zoning actions, the proposed project, and respond to any questions from the chair, the borough president. The floor will then be opened for public speakers. Please listen for your name to be called. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to ask questions and/or deliver testimony. Due to the length of this hearing, as the borough president said, some questions may need to be answered at a later date. When you are called, please identify yourself for the record, and if you are formally speaking as a representative or member of a group, the calendar number or application you're speaking about, and whether you are for or against the item. Then you may begin your testimony. And please note that a signal will ring when your time is up. At the discretion of the chair, if there's a large number of speakers on any particular item, it may be put on second call. Speakers for and against that item may also be called to testify on an alternating basis. Please note that if you are testifying virtually, you must keep your camera on during your testimony and display your name accurately on Zoom. If at any point you have technical issues, please let staff know in the Zoom chat and we will assist you. Thank you for your cooperation. And without further ado, all calendar items are related today to the Jamaica neighborhood rezoning. And I would like to call Jasmine Tapale up to the podium to give the presentation on behalf of the Department of City Planning.
So good morning. My name is Jasmine Tapale, and I'm the project lead for the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan at the New York City Department of City Planning. I'm joined today by my colleagues at the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and the New York City Department of Transportation. I'm excited to share the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan, which is a vision for the next 15 years of Jamaica Queens. This plan builds on Jamaica's many strengths. Jamaica Center is one of the most connected places in the city, and it also has a long history as a shopping center. While there's room for improvements, many have shared that one of Jamaica's strengths is that Jamaica has daily essentials like groceries, schools, and local services. But most importantly, what we've heard most consistently is that Jamaica's greatest strength is its people. It's a proud, diverse neighborhood home to longstanding multi-generational Black community, as well as a large immigrant communities who speak many languages, including Spanish, Bangla, Haitian Creole, and more. Oops. There we go. Over the past 2 years, with a strong partnership with Councilmember Dr. Natasha Williams, we've held 38 public meetings and met monthly with a steering committee convened by Councilmember Williams, made up of over 50 groups, including Community Board 12, cultural institution, local leaders, and community groups, along with an executive committee of city, state, and federal elected officials, including the Queensborough President's Office. Together, these efforts have shaped a vision for the future of Jamaica, which is Jamaica is prosperous thanks to its affordability and inclusivity, its diversity, and its business and investment opportunities. To lay the foundation for this long-term vision, the neighborhood plan supports more housing that would include affordable income-restricted units, expand opportunities for jobs across different industries, and identifies improvements to the necessary infrastructure investments to help the neighborhood thrive. Oops. The city, sorry, back one. The city is proposing the following land use actions to reach the plan's goal: a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment to support the area's growth while ensuring it remains an affordable place to live for both current and future residents by mapping mandatory inclusionary housing, modifying the existing downtown Jamaica Special District to create more opportunities for schools and open space, help create a better transition between industrial businesses and homes, and help create a better streetscape condition in the future. As co-applicants to this application, HPD is seeking an Urban Development Action Area project, or UDAP, and disposition approvals to redevelop and improve scattered, underutilized city-owned land with 100% income-restricted housing. Lastly, EDC and DOT are co-applicants for a related city map amendment action, which would facilitate the construction of 2 pedestrian plazas as part of the Station Plaza project. As proposed, the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan is projected to create over 12,000 new homes, of which approximately over 4,000 homes would be permanently income restricted and rent regulated under the city's MIH program. The plan would also create over 2 million square feet of new commercial and community facility spaces, adding more than 7,000 jobs in the area. The approval of this plan would also result in the largest mandatory inclusionary housing area to be mapped in the city, reflecting this current time in New York when the city is in the midst of a serious housing crisis. The study area is expansive and covers approximately 300 blocks in Jamaica in the southeast parts of Queens. As you can see on the map, the majority of the study area is located within Community District 12, while a smaller portion to the north within Community District 8. The rezoning area focuses on key specific areas that are centered around downtown Jamaica, also known as Jamaica Center, and several major transit corridors in the area that connect surrounding neighborhoods to the downtown area, providing essential access to transportation, services, jobs, and housing. So earlier I talked about Jamaica's strengths, but like other neighborhoods across the city, Jamaica is not immune to the effects of citywide challenges. The city is facing a severe housing crisis as demand for housing, especially affordable housing, has soared in the neighborhood and throughout the city, so putting pressure on the existing housing stock. According to HPD's Housing and Vacancy Survey, only 1.4% of New York City's apartments are available for rent, the lowest housing vacancy rate since recorded. In Queens, it's even lower at less than 1%. So meanwhile, since 2010, housing production in Jamaica has not kept pace with population growth. So as a consequence, approximately 1/3 of Jamaica residents are severely rent burdened, meaning that they pay more than half of their income in rent, which is higher than the borough and citywide averages. Historically, Jamaica and surrounding neighborhoods were some of the few places in New York City where Black and Brown communities could access homeownership. But these same communities were also targets for subprime lending and other exploitative banking practices. So by the early 2000s, the foreclosure crisis hit Jamaica particularly hard, like South Jamaica, destroying community wealth and leaving behind vacant homes that continue to create negative impacts for the neighborhood to this day. So to build on Jamaica's strengths and respond to both citywide and local challenges, we are proposing a series of land use actions we mentioned earlier, which we'll cover with more detail in the next few slides. The first land use action is the zoning map amendment, which would update the zoning across a 230 block area of Jamaica. Here on the screen is a map showing the proposed zoning changes. In the next few slides, we're going to walk through the different areas of Jamaica and what the zoning changes could look like in those areas. So we'll start with this area we're calling the downtown core. This is generally Jamaica Center. The photo shows the intersection of Sefton Boulevard and Archer Avenue. Today, Jamaica is mapped with high-density commercial districts such as the C6-2 district seen here. This zoning reflects the area's long-standing role as a shopping destination and has supported the development of some of the newer mixed-use buildings that have been recently developed along Jamaica Avenue and this area. However, current zoning, there are no requirements for affordable housing. There's only a voluntary option available today. So here's an illustration of potential future developments at the same location if the proposed plan is approved. The proposed zoning changes would allow higher density commercial districts like the C6-4 near the transit hub, stepping down to C6-3 along Jamaica Avenue, which are designed for major commercial centers with high-rise residential and commercial buildings. The difference is that the updated rules would support more space for offices, retail, and entertainment uses, creating opportunities for new jobs and businesses in the area. And lastly, any new residential developments would be required to include permanently affordable income-restricted housing. So next, taking a look at the area north of Jamaica Avenue to Hillside Avenue. Here's a view of Hillside Avenue and 150th Street. This area of Hillside is an R7A with a C24 commercial overlay that allows for medium-sized buildings and housing with commercial uses. So similar to Jamaica Center, this area currently has no requirements to include affordable housing. And so here's an illustration of what the proposed zoning could result in. To support a walkable and active area where people can live, work, and go to school, we are proposing a C44D district along Hillside Avenue, a portion of Queens Boulevard, and around the Central Library. This zoning would encourage mixed-use development with new housing, commercial activity, and an active ground floor uses to the corridor. It also allows a higher FAR for community facilities, creating opportunities for larger schools, libraries, and health centers. And unlike today's zoning, the proposal would require permanently affordable income-restricted housing as part of any new housing in the area. So next, we'll focus on the major corridors south of the LIR track, so portions of Merrick, Guyar, Sefton Boulevard, and Liberty Boulevard. This photo shows Merrick and 105th Road. Today, Merrick has an R5D district with a C24 commercial overlay, which supports low-rise buildings. The street is lined with a mix of low-scale homes, local businesses, auto shops, and then further along, faith-based groups that own large properties that often include large parking lots, and green spaces like Archie Spickner Park and Roy Wilkins Park. So here's an illustration showing what that could look and feel like at the same corner. The proposed zoning for the southern corridors would allow for medium-rise buildings using the area of Merrick as an example. We are proposing an R7A district and keeping the C24 commercial overlay. So the proposed changes would continue to allow all the uses allowed today, like homes, small businesses, and community spaces, but would make room for more. So by allowing mid-rise buildings with ground floor businesses, the proposal creates opportunities for new permanently affordable income-restricted housing and more space for community-serving uses, helping these corridors better support nearby neighborhoods, especially in an area that is not served by trains, where many rely on buses and cars for daily needs. So next, we'll look at this area south of the LIR tracks and east of Sefton Boulevard. Here's a view that shows when I flip the slide. Here's a view that shows the other side of that area that's south of these LAR tracks. Today, zoning south of the LAR tracks is generally an M14 district, which allows low-scale non-residential uses like light manufacturing, various types of businesses, and some community facilities. There are existing homes in the area today, many of which were built before zoning regulations were in place, but new homes are not allowed under the current zoning. The proposal seeks to align zoning with the way the neighborhood has naturally developed over time with a mix of homes and businesses. We're specifically proposing paired districts, which would combine residential zoning with light manufacturing districts, like the M12A/R72 district shown here. This approach would allow new housing in the area for the first time to coexist with local jobs, especially in an area with strong transit access. And then lastly, we'll look at Jamaica's industrial areas, generally along Liberty Avenue. So east of Liberty Avenue near Detective Keith Williams Park is mostly an M11, allowing only low-rise, non-residential buildings. This area, including the former Elmer's Dairy site, is part of Jamaica's industrial business zone, where under current city policy, housing is not permitted. Businesses today include warehouses, auto-related services like mechanics and salvage yards, fleet management, wholesale trade, and some manufacturing. While some businesses like recyclers and urban agriculture have thrived, most of the area has seen limited growth due to the outdated zoning and broader industrial trends. So the proposed zoning changes introduce a mix of districts tailored to different needs. The M12A districts near residential areas to create a buffer from certain industrial businesses, the M23A districts to help existing businesses grow and attract new ones, the M32A district to continue supporting the operations of the LAR Hillside Rail Yard. The M12A and M23A districts were selected for their flexibility. They have higher FARs for manufacturing, commercial, and community facility uses than what exists today. This can support more modern loft-style buildings that can accommodate industrial activity alongside office space, for example. So to further our goal to strengthen downtown Jamaica and its nearby major corridors, we are proposing to expand the boundaries of the special downtown Jamaica district established in 2007. It's depicted by this blue area here, and it's extended to the entire proposed rezoning area. So that's depicted in the pink on the screen. So through the zoning text amendment action, we will update the regulations of the Downtown Jamaica Special District to help address some of the issues that we've heard. Some of the changes include rules to exempt school floor area to encourage more space for schools on privately owned lots, which would allow the city to have more options to place a school in the future. Rules to allow open space bonuses around Jamaica Center to help create options for open space in the future, as well as rules to help create a better balance between the industrial areas and homes by requiring industrial businesses opening near residential districts to enclose. There are other regulations that are outlined in the special district text that was included as part of the land use application. So as I mentioned earlier, we have two actions that are related to specific sites that would add affordable housing and improve the public realm. We'll start with HPD's UDAP action. So the city is proposing a UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of 5 vacant and underutilized city-owned sites located along Union Hall Street and Guy Brewer Boulevard between 108th Avenue and 110th Avenue that are eligible for Urban Development Action Area projects. In the scatter site cluster 1, the approved action would result in approximately 34 affordable homeownership units. And then scatter site cluster 2 has 4 development sites, and the approved project would result in approximately 83 affordable rent restricted rental units, and the developers would be selected by HPD. So the second action we have based on a specific site is Station Plaza. The New York City Department of Transportation, with support with New York City Economic Development Corporation, is proposing a city map change to modify the boundary lines of a previously planned plaza project, Station Plaza. In 2007, the city acquired land near the LIR station to create a public plaza, which is approximately 0.52 acres. Since the 2007 approval, the scope and design of the plaza have changed. So the proposed mapping amendment is needed to accommodate the latest designs. The plaza consists of the street beds and sidewalks of Archer Avenue between 144th Place and 137th Place, the street bed and adjacent sidewalks of Sufton Boulevard at the approaches to Archer Avenue, and the properties along the north side of Archer Avenue between 144th Place and 147th Place. So these actions would support 2 new public plazas totaling approximately 0.45 acres to enhance pedestrian access and safety, improve traffic flow, accommodate bus volumes, and provide new public space to the downtown area. So next, we'll briefly cover the environmental study. A draft environmental impact statement, or DEIS, was prepared. DCP, acting on behalf of the CPC as lead agency, issued a notice of completion of a DEIS on Friday, March 14, 2025. The DEIS does not identify significant adverse impacts in any of the technical areas in gray. Significant adverse impacts are identified for the categories shown in purple to the right, including community facilities and services, open space, shadows, historic and cultural resources, air quality, transportation, and construction. Mitigation measures are identified in the DEIS and will be further refined for the FEIS. So in summary, the city is seeking a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment along with the Urban Development Action Area Project UDAP and disposition action from HPD and a related city map amendment action from DOT and EDC. So Jamaica has long been home to many multi-generational residents and is a community celebrated for its rich multicultural history and cultural significance. With Jamaica's many strengths and assets, the proposed actions hope to advance the community's vision to create a Jamaica that's more prosperous thanks to its affordability and inclusivity, its diversity, and its business and investment opportunities. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm very pleased, when we did mandatory inclusionary housing, I couldn't have envisioned that this would be the largest, going back to my days as a zoning chair, the largest mapped area for it. So let's hop right into that. I want to talk about affordability. So I know, most likely will obviously recommend MIH option 1. Is the city prepared to put any subsidy into the development plan?
Yeah, so I am joined by my colleagues at HPD. I believe they're online. I don't know if
Okay.
there's a way.
Let's
to check,
bring, yes,
Vicky.
we can. Is HPD on? And just go through,
Yes.
what is the proposed unit count again?
So Sarita, it sounds like you're online if you want to take it. So while she's getting set up,
Sorry, if you could give me 1 minute, I will be able
Sure.
to answer all of that very, very
Okay.
clearly in just like 2 minutes. So I'll be right
No problem. And clearly I'm raising the question because what we've seen arguably is a lot of market rate housing in downtown Jamaica, which is out of reach for a lot of residents. So I want to make sure, and I know mandatory inclusionary housing wasn't in play in 2007, so it's a new day, obviously, but I want to make sure that any future development, certainly, especially on city-owned lots, are seeing that subsidy.
and I think as Sarita's getting set up, we have very few vacant sites in Jamaica. So the ones that we do have, HPD is already thinking about like the future through these UDAP actions.
And would those be 100% affordable if they're
That's
city-owned?
correct. So she can talk more about
Okay.
kind of like
Okay.
the limits that they're thinking about right now. But like you mentioned, through this process, because we're not finished with the process, we did study all 3 MIH options. So as you know, we have MIH option 1 and 2, which many people are familiar with. And now we have MIH option 3, which is the deeper
We're not doing
affordability.
3. It's not happening. 1.
But these options are available. And, as the process continues, then we can have more
Right.
conversations about them.
But MIH option 1, not 3.
Noted.
We could open this to 2, but no 3. It's HPD ready? And
Yeah, so I'm here and I can talk more generally about the strategies, and then we'll get you the exact numbers in a moment, or someone who has that handy can share that. But I think, as Jasmine was saying very clearly, we are, doing our best. We're working really hard to maximize affordability here. Of course, MIH is the best tool that we have on private sites to create permanently rent stabilized affordable homes, which, as Jasmine said, we are looking at, mapping the options 1 and 2, and, helpful to hear your feedback around that. I think, beyond MIH, which of course is the main tool or kind of best tool that we have for private sites, we are looking very, closely at all of the public site opportunities. My colleague, Kevin, the director of Queens Planning, who's on the line, could give you more information about the homeownership and rental clusters that we are advancing through the UDAP in this plan. And beyond that, there, are additional sites that we are looking at. We, had some prior conversations with York College, given that, there are vacant sites.
Did we lose her? We lost you?
There. Now is, not going to be the right time to advance opportunity there. And I think that's something for us to be thinking about as well, which is that the neighborhood plan is a stepping stone, an opportunity for us to think long-term about this neighborhood. And there's, a lot we're trying to do in the next few months while we wrap up ULURP, but we also have ideas of how we can continue to create affordable housing opportunities in this neighborhood in the coming decades. And so there's, a Department of Health site that we've been looking closely at on Parsons, and, more information when we have it, but we're really trying to maximize all of the possible affordability. And of course, public sites, public land are the city's best way to do that, to reach, more deeply affordable constituents, as well as, developing program and amenities for Jamaica residents that reflect all of the priorities that we heard through public engagement.
Okay, thank you.
But
and let me ask on public sites, HPD sites, those are going to be 100% affordable?
Yeah, they are. And Kevin can tell you more about the HPD sites.
Okay. And I see these sites. I wanted to also just flag another site, which is on Gaia Brewer in Linden, which is H&H, Current Health and Hospitals, because I am concerned about certainly expanding healthcare through this opportunity. And I think that site provides a keen opportunity either to expand the health and hospitals on the site, which is decrepit, which we just put, I think, $2 million in towards, but we should be thinking boldly about possibly doing housing on that site and then mapping a new health and hospitals on that site, being that healthcare is going to need to be expanded with 15,000, potential of 15,000 more units coming online. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Noted.
Noted.
Are you looking at that site or no?
So we've been working with health and hospitals
Okay.
because they have two, you're right, they have that Gotham site and the one up in Parsons.
Yep.
So we can continue our conversations with them.
So I would want to see both of those expanded. I want to go back to infrastructure quick. So your DEIS has flagged there's no significant adverse impacts on infrastructure. Are we serious?
So
Do we know about the water table at York College? Oh, okay.
they are aware of that.
Okay.
So just to give the quick explanation of why it's showing that, the water and sewer chapter in the DIS and through the seeker manual of what's being studied, they study a very narrow scope of things. So exactly, it's studying a very specific thing. It's looking, for example, at capacity at the wastewater treatment plant that's services Jamaica, but also services a broader community. And so because they're kind of looking more broadly instead of more specific of pipe to pipe and like you mentioned, like the groundwater, it's not showing an impact in that sense, but we do know that there are issues in Jamaica. We've talked to many people who've talked to us about those issues, and they've lived through that firsthand. So while it's not showing an impact on the DIS, it's just one kind of data factor that we use to think about like the future of these areas. It's not the only one though, because again, we do know that there are longstanding issues. I think DEP is very well of the longstanding issues. So it's not because they're showing no impact, there's nothing going to happen in that sense.
So, I chaired the you may not know, I chaired the Environmental Protection Committee. I'm pretty keen on projects that need to happen. Is DEP here?
I don't believe they were able to make
Okay.
it today. Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing from them on how they're going to fast track infrastructure projects. And we do have 2.7 billion. Very happy. Was out yesterday, I think, or the day before, celebrating with DEP on progress for a $78 million project in Idlewild, which is really going to help to mitigate some of the flood impacts, from the Farmers Boulevard spine. But there's no way that there are no impacts here. And if you're talking about adding 15,000 units, and I think the mayor did commit to 300 million, I think, upfront on infrastructure. So I'm interested in knowing which projects that $300 million, which I'm sure is coming out to 2.7 billion, is that a new 300 million, or is this coming out of the Southeast Queens plan?
No, it's additional.
It's
to
an
that.
additional 300 million. Okay. So I'm very interested in the days to come and knowing what does that look like. Let's go to streetscape quick. So we did thank Mayor Adams because one of the things we discussed very early on in his tenure as the mayor was fixing Jamaica Avenue. So we do have $62 million. I don't know if DOT is prepared to speak to when do we anticipate starting the $62 million for Jamaica? You want to come up and discuss that? And then I got more.
Please just state your name and your position for the record. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Andrew Arcese, Borough Planner, New York City DOT. And I'm sorry, what exactly is the question?
So this is when do we anticipate the start of for $62 million that's allocated for Jamaica Avenue already to improve the streetscape there?
So it's in scoping right now and design with DDC, and so that's still underway, but we expect fiscal year 28 for breaking ground.
Okay. Now I want to go to Station Plaza quick on that question. So get that project, and we did have a discussion with the MTA yesterday on some potential opportunities. And I know EDC, I don't know if EDC wants to speak to this for the Supton Boulevard corridor. But so if you just want to speak to Station Plaza, and then we'll go. So when do we anticipate Station Plaza starting?
Yeah, so I'm Angie Espino. I'm a senior project manager with EDC. So with Station Plaza, there are a few things to provide context on when we're getting ready to break ground. There are still some commercial tenants that have to be relocated. We are still in the process of onboarding our relocation consultant. And so that we estimate would take at least another 6 months to get these tenants fully relocated. We won't be starting construction until everyone is fully relocated. And then after that, we'll be starting, or during that time, at the same time, we'll be starting our procurement of construction manager and getting the permits ready. And then at that point is when we can, really start to look at what a construction timeline looks like. We are estimating at this point sometime next year. I don't want to give any exact dates or months even, because we did face recently a delay, and so just wanted to give that context, though, that we have some background things to do first before we can start.
And I did have a discussion with the MTA yesterday on their specific site. Because I know we wanted to look at the other side of Supton.
Yeah.
So I'm going to propose that we look at that site, that side of Supton, and possibly maybe we could think about housing there, and then we could probably demolish that MTA building and give them a
Mhm.
new office tower or whatever it is. So there was a real openness to that yesterday that I wanted to let you know. And in the days to come, we look forward to sitting down with both you and the MTA
Yeah,
again.
sounds good.
Yeah, yeah, we're
Borough
ready.
President, yeah.
For those who don't know what I'm talking about, when you get off the LIRR, you see a lot of activity on something, and it ain't positive activity. And the city actually owns those sites where that activity is. So we're gonna look to possibly move forward on that. And there was a real, like I said, openness on that. Okay, so I'm gonna move to streetscape back to DOT. Jamaica Avenue is nice, but I don't like the way Merrick Boulevard looks, and I don't like the way Guy Brewer looks. So what are we doing on streetscape on Merrick Boulevard?
So on Merrick Boulevard, of course, there are some changes to the street itself that went down a few years ago. Some bus lanes, and there are some other projects. You have the Jamaica Bus Depot being reconstructed there, and so a lot of streetscape improvements can materialize through some of that work, right? In particular. I know that project will restore sidewalks, street trees, et cetera. And I'm pretty sure some roadway improvements as well, just repave.
So I don't want sure, I need numbers. And what I want to model is what we did on Atlantic Avenue when we restored Atlantic Avenue in the East New York rezoning. I want to see a streetscape similar in scope. Also lighting, just as we did new lighting in Laurelton. I want to see lighting that's reflective and comprehensive up Merrick Boulevard as well. So I'm really, for these corridors, really want to strengthen the corridors up the Merrick Boulevard corridor and Guy Brewer as well, which is more narrow, but we should be talking to parks about trees and lighting. We want our boulevards to feel inviting. Same for Hillside Avenue. So streetscape is very important to us here.
Of course, and there is a project that DOT is reviewing, potential project via this rezoning action as well, with many of those elements going down from Liberty all the way down to Linden.
Perfect. And just going back, the bus terminal, Archer, needs a facelift. Have we been in conversations with the MTA on that, on the Archer bus terminal? And we are getting a new terminal on 165th, for those who don't know, going to be state of the art. So we temporarily relocated to 168, but going to be very proud about that one. But I also want to see updates to the Parsons and Archer corridor as well.
Yes, absolutely. So when you're referring to the bus terminal, we're talking about Archer Ave, like roughly 150th Street to Parsons. And so DOT and MTA, with collaboration with DCP, held a workshop pretty recently to bounce back ideas back and forth and try to understand feasibility of elements that can be redesigned or adjusted or modified in the short and the medium and the long term for Archer Avenue at the bus terminal. So a lot of this is still being discussed just because it's a very complicated infrastructure that's there underground. You have the subway. You also have a very varied jurisdiction between MTA MTA property and DOT's right of way. But all of these,
but aesthetically, that's what I'm talking about is aesthetically.
Yes, and
Right.
so we've discussed some of the shorter term actions, maybe different methods of cleaning, different methods of bird protection.
No.
And protect.
I mean aesthetically getting rid of it and redoing
together, and that would
altogether.
be much more long term. So, and that's being discussed as well.
Okay. Okay, DOT, you're off the hook for the moment. I want to go to school seats, so let's go through what school seats impacts are you projecting here?
So there are impacts to two sub-districts. There is a sub-district within the, I'm going to describe it as like Jamaica Center to the west, but going north towards Queens Boulevard. So that kind of northwest section of our study area. So we do have an impact there and a smaller impact south of that area. And so with schools, we are working with SCA to think about future school needs. I think there's two things there. There's one, what our zoning can do in this process. We did add to our special district text a school floor area exemption. So again, just really trying to expand any and all opportunities to have more space for schools anywhere that can have space for schools. So
And
I
we
know
just figured out I believe we're going to achieve getting another high school, which we just navigated a deal on that. But I want to flag like PS 86, which doesn't have a gym as well. Actually, my alma mater, I went there in the 6th grade. But really want us to strategically think about how can we, IS 217, where I went as well. There are going to be impacts. So how can we work with SCA on expanding existing, and very happy that the zoning is reflective of future opportunities on private sites. But I'm 15,000 units. We're going to be impacted.
correct. So noted on the thinking about more about supporting the existing schools as well.
And let me ask you, on the city-owned sites, perhaps we should be thinking about those sites. And just as we did, I think this has been Kalos District, we mapped the school and then we did housing on top. We should really be creative, or perhaps we should be thinking about schools on some of the city-owned lots as well.
I think that opportunity exists in the area. Again, Jamaica has city-owned land, yes, but many of it is already occupied, whether that's offices for different agencies. It is something for, I think, the agency more broader to think about, like their portfolio and thinking about where they can shift to include like more needs that are needed. But right now, like the vacant sites that we do have are very small, and HPD is already thinking about, how do we kind of put at least some homes there.
Okay. And have you so you haven't identified any sites for existing schools?
That's correct.
Or for a new school, potential new schools?
That's correct. I think us and SCA are continuing to work through that. They have very specific criteria of what, makes a good school. For example, they really need 2 frontages to allow for like the school pickups and drop-offs. They need certain sizes for their buildings in order to accommodate like a gym and to think about like state-of-the-art technology. So because they have such specific criteria, it's pretty tough to find a site.
But there are some sites that I'm familiar with, and I'm interested. As you all have discussions with
Right.
private developers, you certainly should be talking about schools.
Correct.
And there will be more opportunities in the near future, but just want to make sure that that's at the top of the line. I want to go back to Jamaica Avenue. So there have been real impacts, and I'm supportive of the busway. But it has negatively impacted businesses there. And I actually just had a meeting with the president of a supermarket chain who was looking at Jamaica Avenue. And unfortunately, because of the busway, it was impossible for them to do delivery. So they didn't put the supermarket there. I am once again calling on the city to adjust the hours. I'm supportive of the busway, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's normally when I would go to get my bootleg CDs on Jamaica Avenue. And we need to fix this because we are killing, and this is not Astoria, it's Jamaica. We are losing disposable income to Nassau County, to Queens Boulevard, that can literally stay because there's no parking on Jamaica Avenue. So we're going to have to, and this is going to be a sticking point for me, I'm going to meet with the mayor on this, that we adjust those hours. And we're just not going to take no this time. We're killing small business up there and dissuading people from going down there, period. So that's going to have to be fixed. That's more of a statement. And I'm not asking you to comment on it, but that's going to be a sticking point. I want to go to libraries now. So obviously we have the Central Library. Are there discussions with Dennis Walcott on new library opportunities? And I know the mayor did announce a pilot program, I guess, on expanding libraries and doing housing, perhaps. So I'm thinking of Rochdale. I'm thinking of Baisley Library as well. That's really small. The Supton Library. are we having discussions with Queens Library on potential opportunities?
Yeah, so HPD does have because of the work that's happening right now, HPD does have a working relationship with Queens Central Library and just kind of the Queens branches in general. We did have a lot of conversations about like their sites and how they were thinking about the future of them. I think they're still ongoing. These are definitely like long-term projects, so definitely not within the time frame of this the ULERP process that we're in right now, but definitely kind of like looking at the future of the neighborhood. There's so much sensitivities with libraries, especially Central Library. It's such a big space and it's a great space, but it's also the central place for like all the other Queens branches. And so it's such a sensitive place that any planning there would take many, many years to make sure that they have like a seamless transition, because they definitely don't want to interrupt services.
Right.
They're such
But I'm talking about expansions of current and also
Right.
looking at new opportunities as well.
correct.
Yeah, I can also speak a little more to that. So I think, what I would note, just as Jasmine was saying, we're of course working closely at, looking at opportunities on libraries all across the city. We have had conversations with the Central Library branch in Jamaica. They are excited about the potential for some sort of collaboration in the future. However, and therefore that's why we actually analyzed it in the environmental review. So like we are,
I'm not
taking a
just
close.
talking about Central. I'm thinking of Baisley, Guy Brewer, are
Yeah.
there opportunities there?
We haven't taken as close of a look at the others, and so that's something that we can definitely add to the list. But yeah, I think we're excited about it, but it obviously needs to be the right opportunity. And I think there's also just for awareness, like one of the constraints that HPD has when we're looking for library sites or really kind of any public site to redevelop is that there's like a limit to how much non-residential use we can have in a new development. It really can't be more than around 20%. And so we need to find something that's like the right non-residential to residential mix to make a project work.
Okay. Rochdale certainly calls for it. And then also, once again, even without the HPD housing component on the Baisley Library, which we put some capital in, that library needs to see an expansion as well in South Jamaica. All right. I'm going to go to impacts on obviously 15,000 people. We have the 103rd precinct, 113. What are the discussions on manpower for those precincts? Also impacts on fire services as well for Jamaica.
So we did have conversations with both NYPD and FDNY for that very same question. They did let us know that, they really take it kind of year by year, kind of looking at, what services are needed, where they feel like they're lacking. So they don't exactly look at kind of this 15-year timeline that we're looking at, but for them, they're at least aware of kind of what's happening, what's in the pipeline, so that way that they can plan accordingly when they start thinking about if they need increased manpower, if they need increased services.
I want to go to the arts. So we have JCal. What discussions are happening around art? And also we talked about a while ago looking at a Walk of Fame, at which I hope to incorporate on Jamaica Avenue. Are there discussions? Is that being incorporated in the Jamaica streetscape plan that will break ground on 28? And how are you engaging the arts community?
Yeah, so that's something that DOT is actively working to review with DDC. I know there is a percent for art component as part of that capital project.
1%? Is it 1%?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm forgetting the exact terms of that program, but yes, there is an art component to the capital project on Jamaica Avenue.
Yeah. So as we go through this process, we're going to really want to actively engage JCal on our arts district and really Walk of Fame sort of theme.
Yes.
Not exactly like the Bronx, but certainly something that can help us on the tourism front. I want to go to something we did in Far Rockaway when we did the rezoning. SBS, we did a small business grants program to have uniformity, try to have uniformity amongst the small businesses. on Mott Avenue, or is there openness, or are there any discussions on a small business grants program?
So we've been having conversations with Small Business Services, the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, to think about these things because, through our conversations, we've heard so much about the support needed to make sure that existing businesses today still have a place in Jamaica in the future. And so they are thinking through kind of what that suite of programs could look like. They have tools today that, we could bring greater awareness to, or there could be potentially like new programs that are specific to Jamaica, but ongoing conversations. But it's good to know that that's of priority.
Yeah, so small business grant program, for the uniformity of the businesses would be good here too. And I'm going to end on just my last two questions. Just go through your plan to incentivize manufacturing again. So you said the potential of 7,000 jobs. What does that look like?
So as I mentioned before, Jamaica has an industrial business zone. There are 21 across the city, and its purpose is really to help grow and preserve our city's manufacturing history and the future of manufacturing. And so part of the work through zoning, and again, zoning can't solve every single issue, but it's a tool that we have. Zoning would be able to help create just flexible districts within those manufacturing areas. I think what we've seen is that they're just so restrictive. They have such low FARs. You can't really build kind of those loft buildings that really help accommodate industrial businesses and jobs like they used to back in the day. We do know that industrial jobs are like pathways to higher incomes, and you don't need as high of an education to get into those jobs. So zoning is going to be one tool for that area to help it, kind of get that facelift that I think everyone is hoping and talking through when it comes to that area. But I think the second thing that's really important to just highlight about that industrial business zone is that we know that there are residents nearby. And for many of the residents, we did have a lot of conversations with them because there are concerns about, growing an industrial area so close to homes. And so we do have a rule where in the M12As, the M23As, businesses and certain industrial businesses that like to stay open to have their businesses need to enclose in order to just have the balance. So we're not saying that you can't be there, but just enclose your business.
And then on jobs as well, how we prepare to ensure the local community as we grow has these opportunities. What are we doing with SBS to make sure training is accessible? Perhaps working with some nonprofit partners. What are we doing there?
I think a big thing that we often hear is just kind of a lot of people don't know about a lot of city programs that exist today. I think there's a lot that many of the city agencies are thinking about bringing more awareness to what is available. There is a workforce development in Jamaica that's run by, I believe, the state.
Yes, yep. Is it run by the state or city? Workforce One.
Workforce One, that's correct.
Yeah.
You're probably right. It's probably the city.
Maybe they need to be on the ground floor somewhere. So as we develop, maybe we should be looking at more of a site that they can relocate to that gives them presence. Because I think they're on the second floor, I think.
Right, exactly.
No one knows they're there. So if we could rethink the strategy or even think of signage, no one knows they're there, and you have thousands of people. You got some fine gentlemen hanging outside the train station, perhaps who we could employ. Though y'all know who those fine gentlemen are. But they may not know the opportunity is there. So we should really think about re-engaging SBS in a real way and perhaps moving them to a ground floor somewhere.
Noted.
And then I just want to talk about parks. Let's talk about open space and what investments are we looking at there?
Yeah, with open space, we've been working very closely with parks. I think just across the city, there's just always a challenge with creating new open spaces. And so we've definitely tried to find a balance in our conversations of like there are existing open spaces today that are very loved and well used. So how can we improve those open spaces? Because again, we want to make sure that there is maintenance and care for those spaces. We know that that's very important to many people. And so a lot of our conversations are really geared towards that of maintenance and care of spaces today.
Like Rufus King Park, which is a hot mess. So we should definitely look at, and not happy with sort of the strategy we're using around quality of life there. So we should think about enhancing whatever we're doing at Rufus King. I was with the Parks Commissioner yesterday, so I know we're going to see some touches up on Archie Spigna Park. And I know there's a lot of capital in parks. You know, we put $5 million into Baisley this year. So there's a lot, but I really want to think about the existing parks and how could we maximize opportunity there as well. And I wanted to talk about South Jamaica houses quick. What is the strategy? So we're going to see all this new development. What are we doing for the residents of public housing there?
So with NYCHA, you know, the president of the Tenants Association is part of our steering committee. So he did, you know, kind of share a lot of the perspective of the NYCHA residents. We also spoke with NYCHA and their capital team to understand kind of what are their needs at the buildings themselves. I think more broadly speaking, because the neighborhood plan affects their streetscape in the areas of people who live in NYCHA and are either walking towards Jamaica Avenue to go take the train, the bus, what have you. So streetscape for us is very important, and one of the things that was pointed out to us during many of our meetings of like trying to create a better walkability and better walking experience to get to the downtown area so that they can go grab the bus, they can go take the train, etc. So that's something we're working with DOT on that. And I think just more generally, we do have, we are aware of NYCHA's needs, and so we're going to continue speaking with them because NYCHA is a state, is led by the state, and so like we're just going to continue working with them on some of their needs.
And two things I wanted to flag that haven't happened. And De Blasio, I was at the town hall with with Mayor De Blasio back then. There's a youth center that remains closed in both Baisley and South Jamaica. So streetscape is important, but let's give the youth of this neighborhood back their center. And it was supposed to be open already, quite frankly, and it's a shame it's not. So we're interested in that conversation. I think we put some capital into the senior center there and some cameras, which are finishing up now, but we want to see both those centers open. So that's going to be a sticking point for us as well. All right, last question, I promise. Childcare, youth programming. What is the strategy with DYCD here? We're going to need, you know, more 3K, pre-K. So are we having discussions on programming with the Department of Youth and Community Development as well?
So a lot of those conversations are still ongoing. I don't have much to share on that, but I think
You're the most honest person I've ever had testify before me. Like, that's a real answer. I like that. But I'm going to help you. So there are existing nonprofits from Roy Wilkins, SQPA. I'm interested in definitely seeing, because with 15,000 units, we're going to need to see more programming and enhancements of programming. So we would love for the DYCD commissioner to be at the table if he's not already during these discussions to enhance programming for our young people as well.
noted. Thank you.
That was my last question, I think. Vicky, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think we're ready to move on to our public testimony portion. Just a reminder, everybody has 2 minutes, whether it's to ask a question or it's to give their testimony. So please do not feel offended if your time is up, just to make sure we get everyone on the docket. And we will also alternate between folks that are in person and folks that are on the Zoom to also make it more equitable. So I'm going to call the first 3 names.
And before you do that, I just want to say thank you to City Planning, to the Chair, Dan Garodnick, who my first foray into zoning was doing his East Midtown rezoning with him. But I really want to thank the Department of City Planning for the outreach strategy here. And it's really noted that you went out of your way to do, I mean, I thought Far Rockaway topped it, but really to do 38 sessions and more I'm really grateful for the partnership and look forward to working collectively together. And I'll end in saying that we're definitely going to want to see, just as we had the downtown Far Rockaway working group for long term, we're going to want to have the Jamaica working group, or whatever we're going to call it, for the long term, to make sure that everything that's committed does come to fruition. And also, as we put out our recommendation, we're going to want stuff in writing from y'all as well, which is my standard, right? We don't just do rhetoric. We want to see it in writing. What do those commitments look like? And I know you still have to work with the councilwoman on her priorities, but we're going to have some bottom line things we want to see before we issue our recommendation as well. So I just want to thank you for the work you've done on this. And with that, I'll turn it back to Vicky.
Yes, thank you. Echoing that, thank you. So I'm going to call the first three names in person. Number one, Chair Thorbs of CB12. After her, we will have Mr. Eric Blake, the superintendent. And then after Mr. Blake, we will have Shirley Aubin. So please state your name for the record and begin your testimony when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Carlene Thorbs. I am a resident of Jamaica, Queens, lifelong, and I am the chairperson of Community Board 12. As I sit here and I listen to this plan, what I do realize is nothing was said about the changes on Liberty Avenue, down Sutphin Boulevard to Marconi Park, where they're looking to put 11-story buildings. This is something new that was added that we just heard about a couple of weeks ago. In addition, I just found in writing and some paperwork that they're looking to bring the same project down to 115th Avenue and down to 116th Avenue South.
Which project are you referring to?
This Jamaica Now project.
Okay.
None of these communities are not informed. My neighbors don't know anything about this. Why are they coming down 115th Avenue when it's all residential, no empty lots? Why are they coming down 116th Avenue South toward the Van Wyck when we are all homeowners and no empty lots? This project, in our opinion, needs to go back to the drawing board. The rezoning for downtown Jamaica was already done, in 2017? Over 500 streets. Now you're doing again another 300 on top of the streets that were already done. The original zoning was to protect the homeowners. We don't feel protected. As the chair looking at what's going on, the homeowners are not being protected from what we are seeing. Downtown Jamaica has apartments that aren't even filled. Why are we building more? Yes, we need a facelift on Sutphin Boulevard. Yes, we do. We need that. Guy Brewer, we need that. But when you're looking at putting up 11-story, 18-story buildings up against the backdrop of homeowners, that's a problem. And I believe we need to go back to the original map and look at it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Blake, if you'd like to state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Name is Dr. Eric Blake, Superintendent, District 28. I'm advised to speak on behalf of the CEC and families, educators of District 28. As a superintendent of the district, I'm proud to represent a vibrant, diverse, forward-thinking community. We are seeing signs of recovery, especially since the pandemic, of resilience and renewal. But with this comes an explosion of families who are now staying in the district. But we have seen a massive increase of our influx of New Yorkers and families. In just 2 years, for example, enrollment has increased over 700 students, reaching almost just under 22,000. What we're seeing is that with this and the small class size comes the responsibility of adding more space in our schools, as was mentioned by the board president. 119 teachers have been added to our class size, which is very commendable. However, there's still great need for space in schools. For example, in the south side of District 28, we require 205 more classrooms, 82 of which are for middle school students. We lack in middle schools. Our community is doing its part. Our CEC class size committee has done a very good job. But these are the major pointers I'd like to mention in terms of the timing. One, we're advocating for the construction of 2 new middle schools, one on the north side of the district and one on the south side. These additions are vital to meeting the capacity demands and class size mandates, specifically MS Middle School 358. There's a great need there. They need to have their own building.
School 350.
358, MS 358.
Mhm.
They really need their own building as it's a school of choice. Everybody's really flowing there. Exploring the conversion of the parking lot at an existing elementary school on the north side of District 28. We believe that this space could be transformed to address classroom needs.
Which space is this? Say it again.
School
303.
303, right.
MS 303?
PS.
PS 303. Okay.
And also proposing a lease agreement for a building adjacent to PS 99, the annex. This
You can keep going. Keep going.
This nearby facility could offer much needed relief for overcrowded schools in the north side of the district, while addressing additional 8 classrooms needed for PS 99 as well, in full compliance with state laws. Overall, we're just saying that we support the idea that the buildings are coming, but there's need for our schools. They're bursting at the seams, and we'd really like to be a part of the conversation.
So 358, 303, PS 99.
Right.
Those are the three.
Those are the three.
Okay.
And we'd love to be involved in the conversations about schooling. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Ms. Shirley Aubin, if you'd like to state your name, affiliation, and begin your testimony.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me, Shirley Aubin. First of all, I'm a Jamaica homeowner for over almost 20 years. I also a longtime youth education and community advocate. I want to touch on schools, right? I'm going to add to, we need to change the mindset of the schools that we have in our communities, right? Just because it's predominantly people of color or in a community of people of color doesn't mean we don't have good schools. And then we, as a community, we need to come together and decide what is a good school and make sure when we reimagine spaces and creating new schools, that what we feel is a good school, programming, resources, et cetera, is in that school. And also, I feel is unacceptable when we imagine these spaces or create new schools, gym and auditorium should not be a combo. And I find that mostly in our communities, we have those, or gym, auditorium, and a cafeteria. This is shortchanging our students, and we need to do better than that. And I'll just do a written testimony because I have a lot more to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree with you. We got to change the mindset that there are no good schools in Southeast Queens. It's ridiculous. And we're in those schools seeing all the great programming, even my alma mater, which we put about $8 million in, Jamaica High School, robotics happening in there, the law program, Springfield High School, veterinarian program, Campus Magna, you got gaming going on in there. So absolutely, as these new schools come online, we have a standard. And SCA has quite frankly been very creative with their new school buildings across Queens. I know we have the HBCU High School. We're going to look to get them a building. We've got York College Early Academy, and I feel relatively good about the new spaces that are being created that are going to allow us to be much more creative in the days to come. But absolutely, the programming needs to come along with it as well. August Martin, just great work happening in there. And we do want to see investment, by the way, as this conversation happens, and I'm very privy to what we've done in past rezonings on how we can see some major capital investment in current schools, not just new schools that are coming online. All right, so with that being said, we'll go back to testimony.
Okay, great. We're going to call 3 folks that are on Zoom. Jerry Rivers of the North American Climate Conservation and Environment. If you are available, please unmute and begin your testimony.
Jerry Rivers isn't present on Zoom. The next person is Andrea Scarborough.
Great. Andrea, if you could unmute and begin your testimony.
Yes, I just did. Good morning, Borough President Richards and other members of the panel. My name is Andrea Scarborough. I am a board member of Southeast Queens Residents Environmental Justice Coalition. Scourge is an organization that advocates for environmental policy changes and tangible improvements in the Southeast Queens community. Today, I come before you in opposition to the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan that would allow the industrial upzoning in the Liberty Boulevard area from M1-2 to M2-3A. Speaking as a resident that lives in proximity to Liberty Avenue and Dunkirk Street, I question why there would be any consideration to upzoning our community for heavier industrial use. The area is overburdened with waste transfer stations, auto salvage junkyard businesses, a cement manufacturing company that generates dust along Liberty Avenue. These businesses sit in the center of a residential community, 400 feet from a park and surrounded by 1- and 2-family homes. Industrial upzoning of the area would be in violation of the Environmental Justice Siting Law, which was signed into law on December 31st, 2022, and amended on March 3rd, 2023. The law protects giving any permits for a new project if it determines that the project will add pollution burden on a disadvantaged community. Liberty Avenue is deemed a disadvantaged community. We know that many residents in the area suffer with asthma, and studies have revealed black carbon in the area. Upzoning would encourage more potentially noxious uses and increase greenhouse gas emissions. The argument given that industrial upzoning will encourage improved commerce does not hold water, as I meet on a fairly regular basis with the transfer stations in the area, and I was informed by the biggest transfer station that there is in that community that there is no interest or intent to change their business model. Instead, consideration should be given to provide commercial services that our neighbors need, such as an urgent care or a fresh food supermarket. This proposed map needs to be corrected and, if possible, downzoned so it looks like the existing community of residential homes where it exists, and at minimum be allowed the same zoning as what was proposed for the Dunkirk Street area, which is the M1-2A zoning. Thank you so much for your time, Borough President.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Scarborough.
Sola, could you announce the next?
Can you just respond to that too? Because I think in your testimony you said that it would enable them to enclose. So can you just go through that again?
So I think the key thing here is that Ms. Andrea is talking about existing businesses today.
Yep.
Our proposals talking about future businesses. So me and Andrea have had plenty of conversations about this. Definitely hear that there is one section where we do have an M2-3A across the street from homes. It does take care of kind of the future of those businesses, but we know that there are some issues with businesses today.
Okay, so we look forward to further discussions on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sola, if you could announce the next person on Zoom.
Okay, the next person is Lisa Edwards.
Hi, I'm Lisa Edwards. I have been a resident of Jamaica, Queens for 24 years. My children are born and raised here. I'm also a member of JCare, Jamaica Coalition Against Rezoning Expansion. And I'm speaking, which is a multi-generational, multicultural coalition of Jamaica residents who are homeowners, shareholders for co-ops like I am, and tenants, rent stabilized and otherwise. I'm sorry, let me get my testimony up. So sorry, it was right here. Indulge me, please. I'm so sorry. Okay. So we all know that rezonings in certain neighborhoods have caused gentrification and displacement. This has been demonstrated again and again by rezonings across the city. And an analysis of rezonings across the city revealed that upzonings are associated with neighborhoods becoming wider, wealthier, and rents going up. Even though more housing is built, on average, the rent goes up. The study also revealed that overwhelmingly neighborhoods that either were majority low income or Black or had large scale rezonings experienced even more intense gentrification and increases in rent. This Jamaica rezoning would meet not one, but all of those criteria. We know what happened in Williamsburg, in Bed-Stuy, in Harlem. It's the same story. The existing communities are displaced to make room for higher paying residents. If they bring, after your college presentation, DCP said that they want to make Jamaica into Long Island City. We know that the low-income residents of Long Island City have been completely driven out the neighborhood, and the median rents are now over $5,000. We're already seeing that here now in Jamaica. The median Jamaican renters make less than 50% AMI, meaning that we make half of the income in New York City. And the housing that we will be built here for people with incomes in the 80 to 120% of AMI range will be completely out of reach for Jamaica residents. What the DCP doesn't tell you is that all the questions you've asked, Queensborough President Donovan Richards, we've asked from the beginning, and we're still waiting for answers. It's always we're continuing to look at this. We're continuing to look at increasing schools. That will be handled by the school department. That will be handled by the sanitation department. Increased hospitals. That will be handled by Health and Hospital Corps. When are they going to actually put these things in the plan? We don't want to sign on to something that does not address that. We
Thank you very
know.
much. Your 2
Okay.
minutes is up.
All
If
right,
you'd like to
sorry.
submit written testimony to our office, you're more than welcome to do so.
And I'm going to do a friendly amendment on displacement because a lot of the projects you're discussing, Williamsburg, there weren't tools put in place. And I was a zoning chair, so I'm very well aware that those things happened prior to, because there's too much misinformation out there, prior to mandatory inclusionary housing put in place. And I've done Atlantic, we did East New York where there was similar fears. Affordable housing, downtown Far Rockaway, affordable housing. The mistake made in 2007 was that there was no mandate for developers to put affordable housing. They don't have a choice by law that we passed when I was a zoning chair to now do that. So those fears are rightful, but we're going to correct, even in Long Island City, when that rezoning was done, there was no mandatory inclusionary housing put in place. So that law that we passed under the de Blasio administration would enable us to correct what we see happening on Jamaica Avenue now and harness more real affordability that meets the needs of a variation of incomes for Jamaica residents, because not everybody in Jamaica makes $30,000. You have some people who do make $100,000. We want to retain those people and not have them moving to Atlanta or California or somewhere else. So we're going to correct, which you correctly pointed out, the $5,000 units in downtown Jamaica right now, which are out of reach for our residents. And yes, we want to see commitments, and this is part of the process that we're here to discuss. So I just want to make sure we're dispelling misinformation when it comes to what we've seen in the past and where we're headed now to correct those inequities.
Thank you. Okay, so if you could please call the next person on Zoom.
Okay, the next person is Darnell Patterson. I'm not sure if they're in person. They're not on Zoom. Salma Hake is the next person.
See if Darnell is on. He's not on?
No.
Okay, we'll go to the next.
Salma Hake.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good morning. My name is Salma Hawk. I am a community advocate with Palo, a nonprofit organization based on Hillside Avenue in Jamaica. And I just wanted to highlight 3 key recommendations that reflect the concerns we hear from our regular local residents. And the first thing is that we really need a plaza near Home Lawn Street and 169th Street. Cross Street is Hillside Ave. there is like no accessible seating or gathering space on that block. So what happens is that a lot of the storefronts on 169th, 168th, and 167th Street, Hillside Avenue, there's people who are standing and just loitering and blocking the sidewalks. And having a gathering space would, be ideal. It would help with the congestion that's created there on the sidewalks. So that's something that we would really like. There's already a triangle, like a small park that's in between on that intersection on 169th Street and Home Lawn. If that can be connected with the sidewalk on 169th Street and Home Lawn, that can be a plaza. And there is one already, for example, like it's similar to what they have in Jackson Heights, Diversity Plaza. We really think that having that space would be great for the community here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and there's a lot of events that we do on that. I see. So you're talking about near on the median, correct?
That's correct. We actually
got it.
had a mural set up last year in that space, but right next to it, there's a small park, but there's two streets that are, dividing the little park. So if we can connect it, that would really make it, a nice place for the community to gather for events, things like that. So that's something that we recommend. The second thing is we don't really have a community center for our youth or our seniors in this part of Jamaica, and our youth need a safe space for after-school programming, mentorship, and recreation. And our elders as well, there's really no like wellness programs or social spaces or community support on Hillside Avenue for the community. So if there is a place, a multi-use community center, or like a place that we can provide these services, a community center, that would be great for our our community members.
Thank you, Salma. Your 2 minutes.
And I grew up on 167th Street, so I know the area very well. What is now the what is the developer? I forgot the developer on it now, above the supermarket, below the supermarket. But yeah, I agree with that, and I think the zoning would allow for community facility, correct, on the ground floor. So as developers come to us, because there are no city-owned sites, we'll be able to have that discussion with them. And you're totally correct that there is a need for services in that particular section of Hillside Avenue as well. So we'll be keeping our ears to the ground on that. And definitely if there's any developers that come to us, and we're going to say this broadly, developers who are looking to develop, community facility is very important to us. So we're going to want to see that attached to your projects as well, commercial and community facility. So thank you
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to 3 folks in person. Next up is Mr. Eric Deutsch, and then following Eric is Abu Naeem, and then following Abu is Alicia Spears. And apologies for any mispronunciations in advance.
Thank you. Good morning, Borough President Richards.
Morning.
My name is Eric Deutsch. I'm the co-founder of DL Development Partners. I'm delighted to be here today to speak in support of the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan. This plan will encourage the continued growth of downtown Jamaica, allowing for much needed new housing, space for jobs, and spur both public and private investment in the infrastructure and public realm that will support this thriving part of the city. I commend the leadership of the borough president and his land use team for their thoughtful participation in this process. There's been significant outreach to the community and various stakeholders. I also want to applaud the work of the New York City Department of City Planning, specifically the team in the Queen's office. Their years of work and outreach that went into formulating this plan is apparent. Jamaica is a unique downtown that has a great history and has contributed to the growth and vitality of this great city. It has been my privilege to work in Jamaica for the past several years. As a partner in property only 3 blocks from Jamaica Station, it's clear that Jamaica Neighborhood Plan is a thoughtful land use plan that will encourage the development and investment to achieve the plan's goals. I spent a significant amount of my career in public sector and nonprofit economic development roles before moving to the private sector. Downtown Jamaica has been of special interest to me, as my parents played an important role in the nonprofit support of the continued vitality of Jamaica. While they are both retired, I learned at a young age that downtown Jamaica, with its transportation infrastructure, geographic advantages, and historically important retail corridors, is a place that should attract continued investment. I'm proud to now work to bring that investment to this important community. The Jamaica Neighborhood Plan will focus that investment from both the public and private sectors in a thoughtful manner to provide all the advantages that this community deserves. I urge you today to support the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your testimony.
Okay, Abu Naeem from Transportation Alternatives. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Abu Naeem. I grew up in Hollis and currently live in Jamaica. I'm a field team ambassador for Transportation Alternatives, and today I'm speaking on my own behalf. I support the Jamaica rezoning plan with some key points, key priorities. I want to challenge the Department of City Planning and Borough President Donovan Richards to consider, how do we make Jamaica Queens a destination? To do that, we need to focus on three things: commercial viability, livability, and accessibility. For commercial viability, how can we better support our diverse communities in building and sustaining local businesses? For livability, how do we address the excessive heat vulnerability while increasing housing and preserving affordability? And I appreciate the mandatory inclusionary housing. For accessibility, how can we create a reliable transportation system that works for commuters, consumers, and recreationists? As cycling and scooters grow in popularity in Jamaica, our street infrastructure must evolve. Safer multimodal streets will give kids better access to parks and ease safety concerns from parents. And they will also make commuting more reliable. When I attended Brooklyn Tech High School, every morning I took the Q110 bus to the subway.
Hey, so did I.
The bus was so unreliable that I was often late to class. The frustration of being skipped because the bus is too full. It is absolutely frustrating. It's angry. But with safer and secure bike and scooter parking at transit hubs, we can give people more reliable options. Thank you for your time, and let's work together to make Jamaica Queens a true destination.
Thank you. Thank you for stoking those memories of the 110. But that's why we did the bus network redesign, all right? So hopefully that helps. Man, that bus was jacked up.
Good morning, I'm Alicia Spears, a Queens resident, and I'm from Cambridge Heights, New York. Without addressing the surmountable problems that currently plague the Jamaica Plan Zone, those issues that need to be addressed were not addressed first. Let's get straight to it. Hospitals. We will need more hospitals and hospital beds. We experienced that with the pandemic. Fire stations. We will need more fire stations, more firemen, and of course, they need being trained in different and extra training for large buildings, for large building fires. Police, severely unstaffed, and that's dangerous for residents and police. Schools, of course, you know there's a mandate for overcrowding, and teacher shortage is a problem as well. Supermarkets are severe. Queens is a severe supermarket desert. And sanitation, we will need more sanitation. These issues listed above are just the start. Infrastructure, electrical grid, water, sewage, environmental impact. Now let's jump to buildings. Has any agency done oversight at these these buildings that exist already? Those developers that claim to give affordable units, were those checked first? Because there's a lot of empty spaces. Of course they were, because they're given incentive. Those incentives are 4025-1, 421-21A, and 485X. Those incentives to keep apartments, to me, empty. And worse all, if a developer wants to change his mind in the middle of development, who's to make him build more affordable housing when he don't have to in the middle of the game?
Before you finish, I've heard a lot about buildings empty. It's not true. And they're getting their occupants, they got to do their, what is it called? It's
TCO.
TCOs before people can move in. But
Is
we've
that
been
for the
in some of
buildings
those
that exist here in Jamaica Avenue as well?
They're gonna be filled. They're gonna be filled.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I'm hoping so. We need more accountability. There is no accountability, and to me, there's no enforcement. And nothing is forever. Just like with the, you say there's mandatory housing, they must do it. Well, remember the rent stabilization apartments? Those rents are increasing. The building frenzy will not only overburden this area, it will overburden other areas with a ripple effect as far as further strain of communities located on the outside of those areas as well.
Thank you for your testimony. And you're right about that 420A, 421A, and 485. Those did not suit our communities. That's why MIH being mapped is going to correct those disparities in the housing, because I'm not happy about what's happening down there now.
Those are tax incentives, and with those tax incentives, builders do what they want.
By the state, but this is the city, so we're going to fix that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. Sola, if you could announce the next person on Zoom.
Thank you for your testimony.
The next person is Tashfia Noor.
You didn't say those exact words, but.
You're testifying?
Hello, Tashfia.
Unmute yourself. If you're here.
Sola, if you could call the next person if Tafia is not on the Zoom.
Okay. Asim Goni is the next person.
Are they present?
Yes.
Unmute yourself
Unmute themselves.
and speak up a little bit more, Sola, so they can hear you.
Okay.
Say their name again.
Asim Goni.
Okay.
Yes, I hear you now. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
So I'm a representative of Apollo as well. And first of all, I would like to say thanks to the Department of City Planning for the presentation. And as a resident of Jamaica, Queens for over the last 12 years, I've seen the area get more crowded, and I've seen more businesses come and people come. And one of the problems we are facing in the last few years, especially recently, is the greater scarcity of parking. My question is, how would this plan to introduce new commercial zones and new building revitalizations, especially affect the traffic congestion, especially in the Hillside Avenue around 169th Street? Guess that's my question.
Well, we're not gonna, you want to submit written testimony? I don't know if you want to answer this question in terms of parking requirements. I mean, there'll be requirements attached, but if you want to speak to. And it will be perfectly imperfect. Like, let me just say that now.
Well, I think the important thing to highlight is that with parking, we're talking about parking within developments when it comes to zoning. So I know there's street parking as well. So I just want to separate out those two things. When it comes to parking within development, so if you're going to build a new building in the area, specifically this area of Queens, so with Balo, I know the area kind of like around Hillside Avenue, and I'm pointing that out is because it's in a geography that has reduced parking requirements. So they still have parking requirements. They're just have been reduced.
It's a transit hub.
Exactly.
Mhm. All right. Thank you for your testimony.
Okay, Sola,
Okay.
please. Oh, go ahead.
All right. Next person is Elsa Janet. I'm not sure if they're in person.
If they're not on the Zoom,
Okay.
okay.
All right. Next person is Paul Travis.
Paul Travis.
Do you see them in the attendee
There's a-
list?
Yes.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Borough President. My name is Paul Travis. I represent Steuben Foods, owner of the closed and underutilized 15-acre Elmhurst Dairy site on Liberty Avenue, which I believe is the largest privately owned site within the Jamaica rezoning. We believe that our site can play a critical role in the future Jamaica, and we support the proposed rezoning. However, it fails to address our site's possibilities, and as such, we believe it is a missed opportunity. A key reason for this is that we are currently within an IBZ, an industrial business zone, although there has been no industrial or manufacturing on the site for many years. Indeed, there is a cloudy future for such uses, as our sincere and long-standing efforts to market the site have shown. The rezoning does not remove any of the IBZ constraints, and it barely modifies the manufacturing zoning, further limiting the possibility for new uses. While we applaud the rezoning's inclusion of our site in the Jamaica Special District, which provides some flexibility for larger grocery stores, in truth, the rezoning does very little for one of the largest underused sites in Queens. The rezoning should stipulate that all retail, commercial, and warehouse uses without limitation should be permitted. As such, the rezoning should clearly state that any future special permit or other constraints to warehouses of any sort should not be applicable to this site. To be sure to provide for new employment, our site should be permitted to accommodate a wide variety of uses and should not be constrained by future rules. Particularly, we are extremely concerned about the ill-conceived but currently proposed last mile warehouse special permit. Last mile warehouses are an important potential use for a site located so close to Kennedy Airport and with direct highway access. The optimal way to ensure more employment and industrial activity on our site is to make requirements for commercial development less restrictive. Thank you very much.
What proposed zoning were you looking at? You're looking at mixed use?
Yes, they are right now, other than, as I mentioned, grocery stores, there's no retail permitted on our site. Our site is one of the few large sites in Jamaica that could accommodate larger retail uses, and we think that would be a really good part of a mixed-use site. And I've heard in neighborhood
You would need a
meetings a
special
lot of
permit,
support for that
correct?
idea. Sorry?
He would need a special permit, correct?
So the district
Currently, yes. Yeah.
over
Sorry.
the former dairy site.
Which I think passed that law. Thank you for that.
Over the former dairy site is an M12A. There's a restriction up to 10,000 square feet for retail, but there's no restriction for supermarkets and grocery stores.
Okay. Sir?
Yes. Yes,
She said
that
some
is
restrictions
correct.
Okay. So are you looking at doing residential? Is that it?
We have looked at it. I would say, Mr. Borough President, that if the last mile permit were passed, we would have no choice. Because I have to emphasize once again, last mile is an incredibly important component of any future industrial development in Jamaica. It's really the only growing sector.
Okay. Can you reach out to us on a different day?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Get in touch with my staff. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe the last folks that'll be testifying today are all in person. And again, once we get through the list of folks that we have signed up, we will do a last call for anyone that may have decided to testify or for some reason we may have missed, and apologies in advance for that as well. The next three folks I'm going to announce, and apologies for the pronunciation, Aniki Singh, Vanessa Sparks, and Dawn Kelly. If you could, in that order, please. Is anyone? Okay, we can move on. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sing and then response and Ms. Kelly, is that correct?
That is correct.
Sing did response.
All right. We got it. Okay.
So yes, please, Miss Vanessa Sparks.
Thank Good morning to everyone here in Borough President. My name is Vanessa Sparks. I am a lifelong resident of Jamaica, Queens. My family came to Jamaica, Queens in 1958 as many African-American families as part of the Great Migration. So I just wanted to lay that out there first. So I believe Ms. Jasmine said that there had been 38 meetings, and you're right, and I've attended most of those meetings. And the plan that was shown here today is very different or slightly different from what we had seen before. So I want to ask this question. I believe I've asked it before. How far down Sufton Boulevard, Guy Brewer Boulevard, and Merrick Boulevard does this plan intend to go?
You want to, sure.
And I have a follow-up statement.
And that hasn't changed, the scope of that, but you can, if you want to just respond.
I just want to be respectful.
And we can pull
of
up the
2
map.
minutes.
We can
Yeah.
pull up the map. We can pull up.
I will pause the 2 minutes for the answer from the agency rep, but I will resume it when
Yeah.
you are
So
given.
Sufton, we're going, what is it? Guy Brewer to Linden. Merrick to Jamaica. I'll let you answer. I think I know the map.
Testing. Okay, great. So if we're talking about the corridors, let's use Merrick to start. Merrick, as we all know, goes all the way up to Hillside, but to the southern boundary is going to be 115th Avenue.
Okay, so stop right there.
We're not, hold on, this is about testimony. We're not going to get in a debate.
No, it's
So,
a debate.
right.
It's not a
So,
debate.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead.
let her finish,
The
because
debate.
we're not going to debate.
Yeah, okay. All right,
You
all right,
testify
all
your opinion and
right.
go ahead.
Correct. So that would be the block right after St. Albans Park. And then for Guy R. Brewer, similarly going down to also.
And actually, that reduced the scope because we were looking at Merrick to Baisley, correct?
Correct.
Originally. Right. Mhm.
And then for Sufton, it'll be the 109th Avenue,
109th.
correct? Right by McCartney Park.
Okay,
So
so
what?
those areas and the plans that, and the meetings I've attended were never included.
That's not true. That's not true.
Ma-
We're not going to do misinformation.
Wait,
Just not gonna-
Mr. Burke,
That's
Mr. Burke,
not- that's
may I
not true.
finish? I
That's
don't
not
want to be
true.
respectful of the 2 minutes. And those homes down there were never engaged. So as a matter of fact, I'm gonna step outside and I'm gonna call some people that live there and I'm gonna ask if they were engaged. I know they were not. I'm here to unashamedly and proudly represent those families, primarily African-American or homeowners that came to that community when no one else wanted to come there in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now that it's become attractive, it's as if those families and their legacies don't exist. And I'm here, although they didn't ask me, trust me, that we're going to stand strong. We're not going to allow this plan or any plan to displace us, disrespect us, as some of the stuff that I'm seeing and have heard here today and over the past couple of years. So I am going to speak with those residents. And I'm going to ask them, because I've been to the meetings and I've asked several times. So what I'm going to ask, and I've asked this before, who is willing to do a walking tour of the affected areas so you can see in real time on the ground how some of this are going to affect those families that live there? I've asked it before and I challenge anyone to take me up on that.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Dawn Kelly, when you're ready. Thank you.
First, I just need to tell you that Lynette Townsley said she's on the line and no one asked her to.
We're going to do a last round.
Okay, thank you. So hello, I'm Dawn Kelly. I'm the founder and CEO of the Nourish Spot. And I'm also a lifelong resident of Jamaica, Queens. My grandfather and my great-grandmother came here in the 1940s. And so I just want to say 2 things. I'm all for development. I believe that Jamaica needs it. We need change, but it should not displace people that want to stay here, especially the older generation. And that's one of the things that I did not hear a lot in this discussion today about older Americans. What are we going to do for senior citizens in this neighborhood? Because some of them are going to be displaced.
That's not true. Let's
Okay.
not do.
All right,
Right.
well, they're on.
We have 2
they're-
seniors. We have.
Comes, and if property tax goes up, these people are going to be at loss of their homes. So I'm just want to make sure that we're worried about parking because I own a home and there's already no parking, okay? And that we are concerned about senior citizens. And other than that, I love your idea about the small business grants. Thank you.
And senior housing should be key, and that's something we should be looking at, especially on the city-owned site. So seniors, veterans,
Yes.
young people. But this idea that, yes, we would have been displaced without a mandatory MIH
And then
option.
I want to ask one more thing,
Mhm. Go ahead.
Borough President. I'm hoping that we will not see overuse of eminent domain to get these plans done. Thank you.
No, the city won't be using eminent domain. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. The next
We
person,
wouldn't allow the city to use eminent domain unless it was going to be for 100% affordable housing. But that process in itself will take, the city's not correct, not looking at any eminent domain. Thank you.
thank you. The next person, and I believe the last person that is here that wishes to deliver testimony, Tara Arnold, like to call up.
And please raise your, all right, so what we're going to do, anybody wish to testify who's here? Anybody wish to testify who hasn't signed up? All right, so hold on, we got it. Anybody else wish to testify who's here? All right, so please come and sign up. If you haven't, you may come. No, you're gonna wait. She's gonna go. Yep, you're gonna sign up and then you can come in.
Okay.
So thank you. Thank you. You may begin your testimony and please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for letting me speak. My name is
He's speaking to the mic a little bit more.
my name is Simone Dornbach. I'm a parent. I'm the Queensborough President's appointee to CEC 28. I'm also the co-chair of the CEC 28 Class Size Law Committee, and I'm speaking on behalf of that committee. I would like to echo Superintendent Dr. Blake and Ms. Auburn about the need for schools. The future starts right now.
Yep.
We need more schools right now, as of yesterday, actually. And I want you to be aware of the class size law that was passed 3 years ago. It is supposed, class sizes are supposed to be 20 children from K to 3. Fourth and eighth grade is 23 per class, and for high school, it's 25 seats. The class size compliance rate right now, there's like a phase-in process. Right now, District 28, and that is the district where Jamaica is also part of, is the second lowest rate at 30% compliance. Kindergarten to third grade is the lowest compliance rate is at 19%, the lowest of the city of New York. Also the lowest for fourth to eighth grade at 23% compliance. And the high school compliance rate is the fourth lowest at 36% compliance. So I really want to echo that it's urgent. It's not like schools that need to be built in 15 years. We already have this need right now happening. And so please do consider that we need at least one elementary school in the Jamaica area. A new building, not adding classrooms here and there. A new building. We need a new middle school and we need a new high school for this area. And we
We
also
do have a
need
new high school coming up now and
an additional
we're working on another one.
Thank you. And we also need it for the other part, but that is not part of our discussion today. So please keep this in mind. It's really important because we're all growing quickly and the need is already here.
Yep.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
We're with you 1000%. SCA.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I was Miss Tara Arnold here though? Because that was the person I called initially. Just want to make sure. Okay, so
If you haven't signed up, come up and you'll sign up if you want to testify. Venture House, is that Venture?
Yes.
Whoever wants to speak, please come up and sign up or forever hold your peace. All right.
Good morning, Borough President. Thank you for this presentation. I am Robin Eshapur, a property owner and business owner. My family has been in the Jamaica area for about 90 years. We have been in business for about approximately 90 years. I believe in this plan. I just want to give some opinions. I would like for the people that make up the character of the community not to be displaced, because that is what I have seen in other boroughs and in other areas of the city. Major gentrification, and the people that actually have resided here for a very long time won't be able to afford to live here if the development is done in the way that it has occurred, where there's these $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000 apartments that are just unattainable. There must be a mix that protects the existing community, that the existing community does not get pushed out. There needs to be a real, true, affordable aspect to this development, not what they call affordable, and which is why I haven't developed my properties yet, because if I sat there and penciled it out.
I heard
If
his voice and I was like,
allowed
maybe he was
development-
speaking against his wife.
Go ahead.
Okay. The next subject that I wanted to touch on is Jamaica Station's a real special station. Fourth busiest transit hub in North America. That's no small thing. That's a real serious economic engine. Fourth busiest transit hub in North America. The station area needs to be cleaned up and addressed a little bit. Needs to be organized to a degree. There was a plan in place. The city does own the northwest corner, which is going to be developed into outdoor space that the entire public will be able to enjoy. There was a plan to do similar to the northeast corner. The MTA owns the building all the way in the rear. There's a few private
We're actually
properties.
going to wrap up.
There's a few private properties that the city was picking up, and the subprime situation caused the delay. It's already been mapped out by the city.
Got it. We met with the MTA yesterday on this, and we look forward. I think I said earlier, the EDC and MTA, we're going to have those discussions on that side of the street now.
That would
So
be
those things are moving.
that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
It would be a huge, tremendous benefit to the residents of Jamaica today and in the future. And thank you.
Thank you. And we agree with you in totality that this plan has to be affordable. And we have a law in place now that we didn't have when they originally did Jamaica. I agree on the $5,000 apartments down there, ridiculous. All right, we're going to go to
Mr. Christopher Daniels, and then after Mr. Daniels, we'll go to anyone who is left on the Zoom who has not yet testified. So if you would like to testify, please keep your hand raised, or please raise your hand, and we will go in the order of how the hands are raised. So thank you, Mr. Daniels.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Chris Daniels. I am a real estate broker. I actually live in the area. Zip code 11435. Went to high school, Thomas Edison. I like the plan. I just had a couple of I guess concerns and a question. I guess I'll start with the question. I just want to confirm that Merrick Boulevard, Guy R. Brewer, and Sutphin will have the commercial overlay. I see that.
Yes, it will.
Because right now the interactive map doesn't show that. So I just want to make sure that
it's a R6. If you want to just come up or if you want to address that.
There we go. the existing commercial overlay is staying. So I think for the majority of the corridor, it has C24. And then in other places, it's like a C1 and variations of that, but they're staying.
Got it. Thank you. The next, I guess, concern is basically the affordable home ownership aspect as opposed to just rentals. So from my understanding, that there is in MIH, you can build, let's say, effectively it would be condos, right? But in speaking to developers, it seems that it's just too restrictive. The numbers just don't make sense for a developer to build a condo in an MIH zone. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done, maybe like
Well, MIH is lost, so you don't have a choice. When it's a city rezoning,
right,
not a
but
choice.
so the choice would be to either build
But that's why I think they left the flexibility of mandatory option 1 and 2.
Right, but
We're not doing 3.
Right.
It's not what that.
Got you. But I'm saying a developer can build either condos or rentals.
If you want to answer
Right.
that, developers within their right, I think, to do whatever they want. Good.
But what I'm saying is that it makes more sense currently to build a rental building. And if we're looking for
That would be a
residents-
developer's choice.
I'm
Right,
telling you what I'm
right.
hearing on the ground level as a broker, right?
Right.
And what I'm saying is if we're looking for people not to only be renters forever, it would be nice if they could actually step up and
So there are some programs too that the city has, and I know the council member has been adamant about it as well. And there are some programs that HPD has.
Okay.
And I would, if HPD is on the line and they want to talk about those programs, they can. But it does have a home ownership option. But that would be, we can't tell a developer, they would. But if you want to, I don't know if HPD is on and they want to answer the question around the different home ownership programming.
All right.
Hey,
This is
oh,
Kevin.
sorry.
This is Kevin Paris with HPD.
Yeah.
Right,
Go ahead,
so
Kevin.
yeah, I do want to say, so at HPD, we do have our open door program, which does either condos or does co-ops as well. And then we also have our home ownership strategies for existing homeowners in the district. So I do understand, I do hear the comment coming through. But right now our programming to do affordable home ownership is through our open door program, which again does either condos or co-ops.
So open door program
I'll look
is
into
something
that.
you should definitely look into.
I will.
Yeah,
for
have you.
sure.
Mhm.
And I guess the last thing, I think it's more of a comment. Hindsight's 2020, but I think that the 45X probably should have went to 60% AMI, generally speaking, just to line up with the UAP that just passed, Universal Affordability Preference.
That's above our pay grade, though. That's the thing.
I know, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
and I've heard the same thing from developers.
Right. And I guess the last thing before I go is just senior housing. I would love to see more emphasis with senior housing.
Sarah, that's a good point. Dawn raised it as well. So there's a SARA program. I did the first SARA program in New York City, actually, in Far Rockaway. And we should look at that programming. SARA will get you senior affordability rental assistance, something, I think, the program. But definitely, if you're a developer listening, you've heard from the community that they want to see senior housing. And definitely on our city-owned lots, we should be looking at SARA and other programming like it.
And if I can just interject really quickly, also all of our
I think we did that
programs.
together, Kevin. Did we do the SARA together? We did SARA.
No, it would probably be my predecessor, but I
Before
do
you.
just want to add that all of our affordable housing projects also allow for senior housing. So we do have the specific program for senior housing, but also all projects are still open to seniors as well.
Got it. And everybody will have to, well, not everybody, at least on the city-owned sites, there'll be a lottery. So that, and I think obviously the city was sued over community preference, so that number was reduced, and community preference mandates that a certain percentage of units go to local residents. We were sued subsequently, so those numbers will reduce eventually. But it's our intention to make sure that lottery program is working, especially for buildings getting subsidy as well throughout the project as well. So there would be a mandate for community preference. So that sort of helps to dispel some of the displacement conversation. But absolutely, mandatory inclusionary housing and a menu of different avenues we can work with HPD on would be welcome to make sure that there's a variation of units for everybody.
Okay, so we're going to move on to anyone on Zoom who has their hand raised, and I'll rely on Sola to introduce those folks.
Okay, the next person is Lynette Townsley.
Lynette. Lynette, unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear
I
me?
hear you now. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us here, and thank you so much, Borough President Donovan Richards. And as Lisa and Vanessa has stated, some of this stuff was not presented to us at our meetings, but with the I'm on behalf of the Community Board 12 Youth Committee. I'm the chair, and we are against the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan as it stands now. And we have a resolution calling for a thoughtful pause on the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan, whereas the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan seeks to implement rezoning measures that will reshape our community, and we recognize the need for progress, but firm believe that development must uplift, not uproot, the people who call this neighborhood home. And whereas the current zoning allows for low to mid-rise residential and commercial buildings, providing a balance of affordability, green spaces, and infrastructure stability with height limits ranging from 40 to 80 feet, and whereas excessive building height and density threaten airflow, sunlight access, and tree growth, worsening asthma rates in Southeast Queens, which already surpass city averages, especially among children. And whereas tall buildings can block sunlight, preventing trees and plants from thriving, which reduces their ability to absorb pollutants and regulate temperatures, and the lack of true affordability for current residents, whereas the proposed rezoning plan claims to introduce affordable housing, but the income restricted units do not align with the true median income of Jamaica residents. And whereas 57% of Jamaica households are rent burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing, and the proposed rezoning does not adequately address this crisis. And whereas the rezoning plan prioritizes luxury and high density development, which risk pricing out existing residents rather than providing truly affordable housing. In the spirit of justice.
Thank you, Lynette. I'm sorry, your 2 minutes are up. If you could just please wrap up the next 10 seconds.
Okay, be it then resolved that the Community Board 12 Youth Committee formally requests a temporary pause on the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan to allow for deeper discussion with residents, elected officials, urban planners, and faith leaders to ensure rezoning efforts reflect the community's needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Okay, Sola.
Okay, next person is Nafisa Mahmood.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Borough President Richards and everyone on the panel. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nafisa Mahmood, and I'm a lifelong resident of Jamaica, Queens, and a member of the grassroots coalition called J-Care. And Borough President Donovan Richards, we're here today because our voices have been long ignored, and we urge you to reconsider your support for this rezoning plan, because what's being called affordable housing is deeply unaffordable for the people of Jamaica, the working class Black and brown people who live here. And let's be clear, the majority of Jamaica residents make less than 50% of the area median income, the AMI. That means we earn half of what the city considers average. So when housing is built for people earning to 80 to 120% of AMI, that housing is not for us. that housing will gentrify Jamaica and eventually push us out. And this is not just a projection, right? It's a pattern. It's happened in East Harlem. It's happened in Inwood. It's happening in Brooklyn. It's going to happen here unless there's measures to stop it. In 2022, only 6.2 of newly available apartments citywide were affordable for families making 30% of AMI. And that's the level where we need help the most. The DCP's own presentation showed that the greatest need in Jamaica is for homes under $1,000 per month. And this rezoning will barely deliver any of that. Even with the so-called compromise of the 80-20 at 40% AMI, 80% of those units will still be completely out of reach. So who exactly are we building for? Councilmember Natasha Williams and the DCP officials all have said and admitted that the housing lottery doesn't work and the AMI doesn't reflect Jamaica, yet they're still trying to put this through. And why? So who does this really serve? So Borough President Richards, you're from here, you know this community. You said that you stand with the working class people of color. So please stand with Jamaica and not just developers. Stand for real affordability and call for a plan that centers our incomes and our voices, not just these Wall Street-like projections. Because if you approve this plan, you're greenlighting the displacement of your own community. And we deserve better and we demand better, and we won't stop fighting until we get that.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Moving on. And Sola, how many folks do we have with their raised hand?
Well, just one more person, Asham Goni. I'm gonna call them again.
Thank you. I believe actually he already testified, but I'll wait and hear from him.
Yeah, they're not unmuting, so I guess we can just move on.
Great. Any other individuals wish to testify on this issue? All right, seeing none, thank you all for coming out today, and certainly your voices will be heard through our recommendation. And I am I'm not new to this. I've been doing this a long time, and definitely there are some rightful fears around displacement. And that's why we will work with the city to make sure that the subsidy reflected. I remember these fears when I did downtown Far Rockaway, and none of our folks were displaced down there. 80% of the residents in those units, when we did it, live in those buildings. So we did it in a very cautious way, in practical way that ensures that the residents benefit from this plan. So we'll look forward to working with DCP to have more ironclad agreements around the AMIs, around the subsidy conversation, to make sure that we are not just, once again, building housing, but looking at holistic development that centers the community's needs, whether that's school seats, transportation, streetscape upgrades, real investment, that will leave Jamaica better off. So I want everybody to know that your voices were heard today, and we look forward to taking this extremely seriously, being that this is in especially my backyard where I grew up. So with that being said, this hearing is now closed, and our next land use hearing will be heard on Thursday, June 12th, 2025, starting at 9:30 a.m. With that being said, thank you all for coming out. The first step is showing up, and you showed up. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you.